Okay, so let's get started. These are the Campfire Cascades. These retail for $800. They are a fully closed back portable headphone. They fold up rather nicely. And it comes with this clamshell case that I rather like. It's got some nice felt material inside. It's nice and soft. And it's good for carrying these things around. The cable is fully detachable. Easy to take off, easy to put back on. They pivot here, up and down, as well as in and out, like so. Another thing I like about them is the pads come off incredibly easy. You just pop it off just like that, and when you want to put it back on, it goes back on just like that. They're held together by magnets, which I think is a brilliant design, and I hope that other headphone manufacturers adopt this, because sometimes pad rolling is a real pain in the ass to do. These are just phenomenally easy. These also come with these little, I don't know if you're going to be able to see them or not. I can get my hands on one. It comes with these little cloth filters. And there's 4 sets of them. And if you hold them in your hand, you don't really, you would think that they don't do much, but they actually change the sound of these remarkably well, adjusting the bass either up or down. The comfort isn't too bad. I mean, I've read a lot of people complaining about the headband. It doesn't really bother me, and I don't have the luxury of having air to cushion the way they sit on your head. But for me, these are not uncomfortable. The one thing that I would say, and you can see them right here, is the ear pads are incredibly narrow from point A to point B. And fortunately for me, I have got pretty small ears. So my ears fit in there, but it's tight. If you've got big ears, these are going to be a problem. Now, I've read that Campfire's coming out with some larger pads, and I would assume, don't quote me on this, I would assume that they're going to widen the pads a little bit so people with larger ears can fully get their ears in there. But if you have small ears like me, it's fine. So, okay, let's get into driving these. Because they're mobile, these can be driven directly from a mobile phone or a portable DAP. They are incredibly easy to drive. My V30, LG V30, drives these remarkably well without an amplifier. My son's Ibasso X50, I think it's called, same story. They sound great straight from the plug. So if you're looking for an easy-to-drive headphone that's portable, that's closed back, and you don't want to buy an amplifier, these could be what you're looking for. So, how do these sound? Bass. Just bass and bass and bass. The last review I did was on the Mr. Speaker's Aeon Flow Close, and I absolutely love the tonality of those headphones. My only complaint about them was they were too bass light. These are the exact polar opposite headphones. These have so much bass that when you use them naked without those little cloth filters I showed you, it's too much. It's just like, okay, this is really overbearing, overwhelming bass. I found that one of the filters brought it down just enough to where it was tolerable without drowning out the rest of the frequency. It still bleeds into the mids without a doubt, but it's not as offensive with the filters in place. The tonality stays the same. You still know that you're listening to the Cascades, regardless of whether you have the filters or not. So it's not like you put the filters in and it suddenly changes into an HD 800. No. It's still going to be bass-centric, but not fully bass-centric. As you may or may not know, basshead headphones typically suffer from horrible mids and strident highs. And I'm happy to report that these don't do that mostly. The mids on these for a bass-centric headphone are actually pretty good. Now, I'm not saying the mids are good. I'm saying for a bass-centric headphone, the mids are good. The highs are rolled off, but it's not too rolled off. It's not too warm. It is a very warm headphone. Make no mistake about it. So you're not going to be blown away by a bunch of treble. The treble's rolled off, but it's still fairly detailed. The problem I have with the sound, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, is that the bass really bleeds into the mids quite a bit. And when you're listening to older, warmer recordings from the 60s, from the 70s, even from the 80s, I didn't like these. You know, if I'm listening to classic rock or old school, new wave of British heavy metal, these are just too warm, too much bass. They don't bring the guitars forward enough. The vocals are decent, but they're not like, it's just not a good match with older, warm recordings. It's too much warmth. And I like warm headphones. What I did like about these is with newer music, more modern technology goes into the production value of some of the new stuff. Studio produced EDM, pop, new metal. That type of music sounds killer with these. That bass is just phenomenal. And you're not getting too much of a bleed into, well, you're still getting the bleed, but it doesn't take away from the music nearly as much on some older recordings. So like I'm talking about Iron Maiden, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, any stuff like that. If that's what you're into, I don't really think these are that great. If you're into stuff like Disturbed or, trance or EDM, hip-hop, stuff like that, newer stuff, these are really, really good. And coupled with the fact that you don't need an amplifier for them, these, like I said, could be your perfect headphone if you're somebody who uses headphones out and about frequently and can't be bothered with carrying around a separate portable amplifier. These could be your solution. When I was thinking about what these sound like, the closest thing that I could kind of come up with was the V-Moda M100. The V-Moda M100 has that bass same as these. It hits harder than these. These have more of a warmth in the mid bass than the V-Modas. The V-Modas have those sparkly treble and then the recessed mids. These don't. The mids on these are recessed, but not to the degree of the V-Modas. But they don't have that super detailed high. So it's not a good comparison, but it's the closest one that I could think of. With some of the other bass-centric headphones that I've had in the past, like the Taction Canon or the JVC SE2000s, these blow both of those away. They don't have nearly the bass slam or the extension that those do, but overall across the board, these are just a much better sounding all-around headphone. Where I'm having trouble with these, though, is the price tag, which I mentioned earlier is $800. If I had $800, if I was just getting into this hobby and I had $800, I would myself go out and buy an HD 6XX for $200, a pair of V-Motus M100 for I don't know how much they are, $200, $250, something like that, and a decent little tube amp to drive the 6XX, and I would still come in under $800. So I would have a headphone for mobile use. I would have a great sounding headphone for home in the 6XX, and an amplifier, and still be in at under $800. If you're beyond that, if you've got an amp and you've got other headphones, and you're just looking for something to wear while you're at work, and you don't want to disturb your coworkers, or you travel a lot, and you just want something just for that, then these fit that bill perfectly. My wife really likes them. She loved them. She put them on, and she immediately just started dancing. She likes it. But she likes poppy music. She likes that old disco-y type stuff, and so for her, these were great. My stepson, he is a metalhead like me. He put these on, and he took them off and said, "God, these are horrible." So, take that for what it's worth. I don't think they're horrible, and I didn't put them on and start dancing. My opinion of these is kind of in the middle there. I have a problem with the price tag primarily. If these came in at around $400, then I think they would be much more, I would probably have a lot more glowing things to say about them. Because I don't do mobile headphones. I don't wear them out on the street. I'm not in the subway or flying a lot. So I don't really have a need for these. The headphones that I do own that would come closest to these in description would be the ZMF Atticus, which are about $1,100, and they do require an amp to sound good, a good amp. So, you're looking at maybe $1,800 between the headphone and the amplifier. But there's been times when I've listened to my Atticus and thought that they were a bit unruly. But in comparison to these, the Atticus sound downright nimble. So if you are in the market for a good slamming headphone for home use that sounds epic for metal, and you're eyeballing these, I would suggest saving a couple $100 more and getting an Atticus, because in my opinion, these don't even come close to the Atticus. But we're kind of comparing apples and oranges. One requires a good amplifier, and one can run straight from the jack of your mobile phone. So again, it's a bit apples and oranges. So the market that they're shooting for, I think, is a bit narrow. And for me, I'm just not in that market. But I do like what they're doing. This, I believe, is their first full-size headphone that they've ever released. And they did a good job. I mean, it's a very fun-sounding headphone. It makes no attempt to sound neutral. None whatsoever. They're not... Whoever tuned these did not want to compete with the HD 800s of the world or the Bayer Dynamic T1s of the world. These are supposed to be for bass lovers, for people who like modern poppy, rap, hip-hop, trance. They geared that towards these, and if you are that person, you're going to love these. These are really, really good for that type of stuff. And you don't have to have all the extra stuff to go with it, the extra amp and the lightning cables and this and that and the other. Pop it into your phone, boom, you're done. You put them on and you're rocking instantly. It'll be interesting to see what Campfire does with their next set of headphones if they do decide to make another pair. It'll be interesting if they come out with something a little bit more neutral. I think that they probably listened to the Aeon Flow Close and said, let's do the exact opposite. And they succeeded. It is the exact opposite headphone. If I had $800 to spend on a closed back with no more budget, absolutely positively no more, I personally would buy the Aeon Flow Close because I don't listen to hip-hop. I don't listen to pop. So for me, the Aeon Flow Close is $800 better spent. But the Aeon Flow Close also requires an amp. It doesn't require it, but you're not really getting the best out of it without one. But that's just me. And that's all I can tell you is how I feel about it and what the type of music that I listen to and my musical preferences and my usage. It's usually through a tube amplifier, sitting right where I'm sitting right now, listening to rock or blues or metal. And these just, like I said, for $400, okay. $800, man, I can't rationalize it. Anyway, this has been Monster, and this has been my review of the Campfire Cascade. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Hit the like button if you like what I'm doing. It helps, and I'll see you again next time.